No empire lasts forever. The Roman Empire once ruled the known world, until it didn't. The Dutch controlled global trade, then faded. The British once claimed the sun would never set on their empire, but it eventually did. And now, the same question looms over the modern superpower: is America next? In the 1990s, the United States was celebrating. The Cold War was over, the Soviet Union had collapsed, capitalism had triumphed, democracy was spreading, and the American dollar had become the backbone of global trade. In 1995, nearly 71% of global reserves were held in US dollars. The world looked to Washington for leadership, economically, militarily, morally. In the 1990s, China was still poor, but not aimless. Its leaders weren't trying to imitate America, they were preparing to surpass it. With 9% annual growth, China's economy expanded at an extraordinary pace. Millions were lifted out of poverty. The manufacturing sector surged. And in 2000, when China joined the World Trade Organization, President Clinton saw it as a turning point. He believed that economic freedom would lead China to political freedom. That capitalism would automatically bring democracy. He was wrong. China never intended to become America. It intended to outcompete America, on its own terms. From 1990 to 2020, China's manufacturing output grew 50-fold, from $100 billion to nearly $5 trillion. America became dependent on Chinese products. 97% of laptops and 78% of smartphones sold in the United States are made in China, so are 80% of sporting goods, 83% of toys, and a significant portion of pharmaceuticals. From the outside, the American economy looked efficient, but it was growing dangerously dependent on a geopolitical rival. Cheap Chinese goods led to a consumer boom in the United States. People bought more, and borrowed more. In 2000, American consumer debt was $1.8 trillion. By 2020, it surpassed $14 trillion. The government followed suit. By 2024, United States national debt had reached $36 trillion. One in every $6 of the federal budget went to paying interest. And, projections suggest that by 2034, total debt could hit $54 trillion, meaning $150,000 of debt per citizen. This isn't just an economic problem, it's a classic sign of imperial overreach. History has seen this before. In the 16th century, the Dutch Empire dominated global finance, until it collapsed under the weight of debt and inequality. The British Empire followed a similar path: overexpansion, war, and financial instability. America now mirrors those same symptoms: rising inequality, unsustainable debt, hollowed-out industry, and political dysfunction. The collapse of empires rarely happens in a day, but it always starts with decisions no one dares to question. While America fought wars, China built alliances. Since 2010, China has invested over $1.3 trillion in the Belt and Road Initiative, building roads, ports, railways, and power plants across Asia, Africa, and Europe. More than 150 countries are now involved, covering over 75% of the world's population. In Africa alone, China has built 12,000 kilometers of roads, more than 20 ports, and over 80 power plants. Compare that to USAID, which built just 800 kilometers of roads in 30 years. China's model is not based on ideology but strategic cooperation. They don't try to change governments. They offer infrastructure and financing, no strings attached. And for many developing countries, that's far more attractive than the American alternative. Since 2000, the United States has participated in over 72 foreign conflicts. Iraq alone cost $2.2 trillion. These wars drained America financially and morally. China, meanwhile, stayed out of conflict. It focused on economics, not ideology. It traded, it built, it saved. And as America burned trillions on war, China funneled its trillions into the future semiconductor factories, green energy, high-speed rail, and artificial intelligence. In the 1960s, 30% of US jobs were in factories. By 2020, just 8%. As globalization took hold, companies outsourced production for higher profits. Industrial towns like Youngstown, Ohio, collapsed. Blue-collar America was hollowed out. These jobs weren't just employment, they were the backbone of the middle class. Without them, economic power concentrated at the top. Since 1970, the top 1% have gone from controlling 22% to over 30% of all wealth. Meanwhile, real wages for the bottom 30% have barely moved. Yes, the United States economy has grown, but who benefits? While GDP doubled since 1980, the gains went mostly to the rich. The average American is not richer. They're more in debt, more rent-burdened, and honestly, more anxious about the future. In 1980, a typical house cost $60,000. Now it's over $400,000. Yet real wages for the poor haven't budged. The so-called American dream has become unaffordable for millions. In 2024, Trump returned to the White House, promising to revive American manufacturing, his weapon of choice, massive tariffs. In theory, it made sense. Force companies to return jobs to America, raise $1.8 trillion in revenue over 10 years, but the plan imploded in just 10 days. Why? Because it spooked the bond market, the lifeblood of United States debt financing. If investors fear instability, they dump United States Treasury bonds. Interest rates spike. And with $36 trillion in debt, even a 1% increase means $300 billion more in interest payments. That's how fragile the system is. America and China represent two competing visions of power. One is focused on consumption, military intervention, and political chaos. The other, on saving, investing, and building global infrastructure. America is fighting to hold on to an old world order. China is quietly building a new one. The question is no longer, will the American empire fall? The question is, has it already started, and in its place? Are we entering the era of the Chinese century? Thank you for watching Talk Maniac, where we untangle the stories behind the headlines. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for more truth beneath the surface. Music fades into silence.